Hello, everyone. Jesse Webb, TradersPro. Market conditions, bullish in a bull market. That's kind of an understatement now with this last move in the last couple of days. Overall uptrend accelerating significantly to the upside. We've got some really across the board numbers here to look at. Bullish of this retracement pulling back. We know that's the scenario currently. We talked yesterday about the sentiment and how we want to see that up in this upper range, which is good. We're seeing momentum now move to the upside. We're seeing momentum now up into the extreme range. We'll look at the chart below. Sentiment has also moved nicely, but typically when we see a market top, we're going to see these a lot closer together, and we should see momentum kind of outpace sentiment. Not quite there yet. That being said, we just had a huge rally, and it certainly could run and try and test some of these recent highs, but we're seeing momentum now up in this extreme range. We did see breadth finally bump up into this trending range, and we're also seeing sentiment right here in this range. Sentiment usually kind of gets stuck right here, which is that's kind of where we want it in these overall uptrends. And so we'll see what today brings. We did see a real sharp move in the buy-sell ratio also, and that popped it all the way up to 2.32. And we're also seeing the sentiment which is approaching that upper range. It can get significantly higher, all the way up into that, the highest is 100, but 97, 98 on a real strong rally. We're at 84 now. So we're approaching that upper range, and we've had such a strong run here. That news, the CPI news really moved the market. What's interesting about that news, I'll come back to that, but let's go over a couple other things here first. Volatility, we're also seeing towards the lower end of that range, and we've seen bonds have this massive rally. So we're approaching the upper range short term on bonds, short term on equities as well, and down bearish on volatility. So those things we're getting a little bit extended, and wouldn't be a bit surprised to see retracement. I've said that though for a couple of days, but this rally is extremely strong. That's the direction certainly that we're looking for. Not looking to go anything bearish at this point, but just realizing we're approaching the upper ranges of that extreme move. Market ETFs solidly across the board. This is what we want to see now in an overall solid uptrend. We want to see volatility dropping. Now we've seen TLT move to the upside as well, and we talked about this yesterday of it bouncing off of this area. And so again, a lower CPI means that inflation, the Fed has potentially done its job with interest rates and can either pause. I actually said in the update that I talked about yesterday about them tightening. I didn't mean that. I meant loosening, lowering interest rates going into 2024. If we see recessionary situations where they have gone too far too fast, and they may actually have to start lowering aggressively. If that happens, we could see a pretty nice bond rally right here, potentially even a short covering type rally in bonds. The equity markets seem to, whatever it is they see, they're just loving this condition. Now, let's look at a couple of scenarios, because ultimately this is an interest rate driven scenario. This is an interest rate driven market, and the couple of the ETFs to look at here. We talked about bonds. We also talked about Russell 2000 yesterday, and it had a huge run, moving higher, 5% on small cap. Those small cap 2000, those are stocks that are those are the most interest sensitive type stocks as far as risk, and they had a really strong move. Leading into this rally though, one thing that's interesting is if you go to sectors, go to the sector scan, and the leading sector here was construction. If we look back to when this rally kind of even got started back on November 1st, you can see that construction was still the leader. The rank was the best one. The number of stocks were starting to move. They were stuck in this hold range, but that was the leading sector, even leading into this overall rally. And some of those early entries were Beazer Home. So this chart pattern, this was November 1st right here. So we had home builders really moving aggressively, and now you can see because of the interest rate scenario, you're seeing home builders and construction, anything to do with interest rate sensitive companies just skyrocketing, another 9% on Beazer Home yesterday. And that entire sector, that entire group looks very similar right here. So now if I change this back to our current scenario right now, we've got 84 stocks in that uptrend in that construction sector and 71 on the average overall rank. And these things are just screaming. MPTI, another 4%. You know, it's gone up from this low back here, 15, essentially doubled up 330% year to date. These are obviously now reaching the upper end of this rally, and being able to focus on these as they're taking place is one thing we want to be able to do utilizing the software. So let's talk about that new buy list. We've got some interesting stocks here. I don't love these patterns just because of where they're at in this trend, but this is what we're starting to see now. We're starting to see some bottom fishing as well, where you're getting stocks that have retraced, maybe not quite as solid. One of the reasons the rank is so high here is it's kind of covered up, but you can see that big rally that it had about a year ago. And so it kind of probably doesn't justify this good of a rank because of that high of an uptrend there. Nonetheless, it's a decent looking pattern. I'd just be a little bit cautious. All these biotech, biomedical, bio anything create a lot of volatility and can move significantly one way or the other. We'll look at that. The other one that's in here, though, is IMGN. This is a stock that had a massive gap, run higher, retraced all the way back down, and now it's got this bottoming pattern. If we look at the 6-month time frame in that overall downtrend, but starting to move back up again into that momentum zone, which is where we want to ultimately see a stock. And that's not too far. A $16 breakout could put it back up into that momentum zone as well. Let's take a look. ACHR, this is Archer Aviation, which is the helitaxi, or they have like the off spray type of aircraft where they can take off and land straight up and straight down. Pretty cool technology, pretty cool stock. We actually did an update on it back here as it was in that upper momentum zone. It retraced back down and is now starting to work its way back up. If you're interested in that new type of technology that is really kind of unproven but starting to grab hold, and that's that drone idea of taxi, human beings, transportation in a drone style vehicle. Interesting stock there to consider and keep an eye on. BBIO. Again, you can see a lot of these stocks, a lot of them have already moved. The new buys are now coming out of counter trend patterns, where a lot of the muscle stocks they're already in those aggressively bullish patterns. We can look through some of those stocks and see CBAY rally, pullback, retracement into that momentum zone, finding support at that 14 and continuing higher. There's a lot of stocks in that group to take a look at and consider. So in summary, market conditions, actually, let's go and look at S&P 500 again. I just want to go through and just kind of summarize on that chart pattern to see how far we've gone and how fast. So this overall move, we're well above that momentum zone now. We are entering into that upper momentum extreme range and have some resistance here as well. So a really powerful rally. We'll start to see if we run out of a little bit of steam here, but this is our direction. This is our trend. Oh, the other chart I wanted to show you, not really a chart, but on the sectors, the overall ETF sector, since we covered this often, you can see all the green. We've just about moved everything back up into bullish trends. Healthcare and energy are the laggards, although USO looks like it really wants to make a move, and we're seeing energy retrace, so potentially into an overall uptrend here. If we pull in this time frame like this and shift that trend direction, 618 retracement. We'll see if energy gets a pop here, healthcare as well, but the rest are moving pretty nicely. So we're solidly in bullish scenario. But that being said, we're reaching the upper ranges of these. Be watching for taking some profits on some of these big winners. or adjusting stop losses, or whatever your trading plan is calling for at these levels, whether that is taking part of the position, whether that's a tightening the stop loss, or whether that's taking the entire position into the strength, it's going to pause here eventually, and watching for that as a possibility. That'll do it for today's update. If you don't have full access to the site and software, you can sign up with the link below, and we look forward to having you. Have a fantastic day today.